Hello, everyone. Welcome to the AMA session with Accelerating Asia. My name is Razi.
My name's Osman. We're the Clueless Capitalists, and let's quickly introduce who our hosts are today. Um, Alex, would you like to give a quick introduction to yourself?
Sure. I'm Alex Miller. I'm the entrepreneur in residence here at Accelerating Asia and have been for the last almost 2 years. Um, Accelerating Asia, we invest in early stage startups, and I've been working with over 40 startups at Accelerating Asia. Before that, I've been CTO, CEO, CMO at various startups around the world. And I also worked at 500 startups for a brief stint.
Okay, and we've got Yahya as well, who's the co-founder of Pattern, which is a startup in Pakistan, and they're in the current cohort. Yahya, if you'd like to introduce yourself, please.
Hi everyone. Thank you, Osman, for having me. So my name is Yahya, co-founder and CEO at Pattern. We're a social food app and the ultimate growth engine for brick and mortar restaurants in emerging markets. Before this, I've worked with a couple of startups in the region, and then
All right, cool. So yeah, we've been meaning to do this session for a long time. Both myself and Razi have been doing a number of YouTube interviews with startups on the Clueless Capitalist podcast, and the typical questions have always been coming back as to the Accelerator program, Accelerating Asia, because quite a few of the startups that we've been talking to are coming through that particular program. So we keep on getting badgered by people wanting to know more about what the program is, how it works, and both me and Razi thought, well, why not just bring the guys in and have them take the questions from everybody who's on the event today. We've got quite a few people on the session listening in. We've also got your YouTube live stream as well. So if there are any questions, we'll keep an eye out for them on the chat, and we'll feed them through. You are welcome to present your questions both either directly on the chat, on the Q&A, or in the comments, and we'll pick them up. So, Razi, do you want to kick it off with a couple of teaser questions that we've been asked in the past?
Yeah. Thank you, Osman. So if you're tuning in and you are an early stage in startup, you want to get your questions ready for Alex, and you also want to get your questions ready for Yahya, because he is in the current cohort of Accelerating Asia, so he can give you some insights on how you can get yourself selected for the accelerator. If you are an investor, again, you can ask questions to Alex to find out how you can be part of Accelerating Asia's startups growth stories. And if you are a potential mentor who wants to contribute to the accelerator program, feel free to ask your questions as well, and see how you can contribute to the startups as part of the program. So the first teaser question for Alex, this is for you, Alex. When you look at the startups that come in to Accelerating Asia, what kind of profiles of startups are you looking at specifically, or are you looking for specifically?
Thanks, Razi. Yeah, so in the last couple of cohorts, we've had over like 600 applications per cohort. And as I go through these applications, I'm struck by various types of startups that we like and that we also look to avoid. So the startups that we look to avoid, I'll go through them first. They typically don't have a website. Sometimes they apply with just very little traction or material even. Maybe it's a couple of founders with just an idea. I think Accelerating Asia is actually like an accelerator, and I think of that differently than an incubator. An incubator is like a place where you put little eggs to hatch, and they hatch and they build something to get started. An accelerator is where you smash elementary particles together and you get something new and exciting, right? And so I think that we're like the place where you're already moving, really fast. You're an elementary particle. You're like approaching the speed of light. We just add a little bit more energy, and give you the connections you need, the energy you need to take it to that next level. And that next level is typically a Series A or a round that's greater than, $500,000, $600,000, $800,000. So to get there, you're going to want to have, revenue in the, upper 4 digits or the 5 digits US dollar mark. You're hitting $10,000, $15,000 a month. That's great. If you're hitting $5,000, $6,000 a month, that works. If you're just starting, on occasion we do bring in startups like that as well, but it's more rare, and it usually has to do with really the reputation and the past histories of exits and success of the previous founders. And then also, ideally you might find a way to get introduced to me or to Craig or one of the other people, or you might find 5 ways to get introduced to us. And we're like, oh, wow, this person really knows how to network. They really know how to get in. And so that's going to be like an indicator that once they get in, they're going to be successful afterwards. Now, a lot of people want to know like what kind of sector we're looking for. I tend to think that we're sector agnostic, but we're not bubble agnostic. So if your sector is super hot, you're in a bubble, we're not necessarily looking for that. So we're not, we do invest in crypto startups, we do invest in AI startups, but we do that based on the actual startup having a great real business that's working. And so when we say we're sector agnostic, what we're really talking about is we're looking for real digital businesses that are working. And when I say digital businesses, that means, maybe you're an offline business that's delivering medicine in Bangladesh, but you use a mobile app. You use AI to like manage your inventory, your drivers, your things like that. So you may be an offline business. You may be an online business, like for example, one of our investments, GiftPack, is an AI gifting platform. And again, this is like an online software as a service that delivers fantastic value to enterprises. So, both online, offline, AI, but real tangible business, real tangible revenue, and founders that really care. And the last thing I would say is that that it really does help to be something that a lot of people care about. So if your startup is working on climate change, if it's working on issues having to do with education, having to do with basically the things that touch on the SGDs, the society, making society better, those are things that we also take into account when we basically advocate for your startup inside our internal group. It's a great startup and it's doing something that I care about, and that's going to help as well. I hope that kind of covers a lot of the ground there.
No, it does. It captures quite a lot, because one of the questions that came through just as you was talking was literally, do you take startups in the program that are pre-revenue? And I think you answered that.
Yeah, like I said, it does happen, but it's rare, and you've got to be, it's got to be something really special to happen.
Yeah.
And typically, it has to do with the founder's ability to make an impact.
Yeah. I mean, and talking about impact specifically, I know that there is a segment of Accelerating Asia which is, that does have the metrics around the sustainable development goals and things like that. Can you just talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So while we are not primarily an impact fund, just by the nature of the regions that we invest in, I don't remember the exact data, but I believe it's like 80-something% of the startups that we invest in have one or more SDG, Sustainable Development Goals, that they're hitting. Whether that's because they're empowering women through education, or whether that's because they're helping impact climate by delivering goods via electric vehicle. These are all things that we care about. And additionally, Well, we don't like have a filter for this, but it turns out that we've invested in over 40% of the startups that we've invested in have been female founded or co-founded. That's something that I wouldn't say like drives the needle, but that's something that we do care about, and just so happens that female founded and co-founded businesses tend to perform really, really well if you look at some of the data. So that's kind of does help with our decision making a little bit.
Yeah. All right, cool. I mean, one of the questions that we typically get asked when I'm talking to startups is really, what does a program consist of? How do I know whether it's suitable for me? Do you have any insights that you can share with the viewers?
Yeah, sure. So that's really my job, is to run the program. So that's my favorite thing to talk about. Our program is, I think, a 14-week program. In the beginning of and the end of the program, we meet offline. Typically, in the beginning of the program, we have a kind of a retreat where we get together, get to know each other, work on our pitching, work on our business models, kind of like just let everything gel. And then at the end of the program, we have our demo day. And the demo day is where we, introduce the startups to like a mass of investors in Singapore, where kind of the best capital in the region is. Now, across the 14-week program, you're going to have a weekly, basically four weekly events, and those events are typically like 1 hour. So we try not to take more than like 4 hours a week. We have a stand-up on Mondays where we really work on your metrics. We go deep into the metrics of each company, and we try to help them deliver their metrics in a way that's going to help them operationally week by week. And if you're building your sales, weekly is the time to do it. And so we help companies build their sales, build their user traction, build their engagement through understanding their data. Then on Tuesdays, we have something that used to be called Growth Jam, and has sort of merged into what we call now War Room, where the founders bring their stories and their problems, and I moderate, and sometimes I give a little bit of feedback, but usually I let the founders, and the founders have, because the thing is that we bring a lot of resource, but you guys also bring a lot of resource. You guys become a support group for each other. So we kind of make that war room a place where everybody can chip in and contribute and give their advice and get their advice from other founders. And then on Wednesdays, we'll typically do a master class or some kind of educational event. And then on Thursdays, we have a VC pitch night. And that's where we bring the best VCs in the region, whether it's next week we have the fund formerly named Sequoia coming in. Previously, last week we had the co-founder of Microsoft, Steve, I'm blanking, Steve Allen, I think it's Steve Allen. We had his family office in to be pitched to. So we have like, insignia, we have the best of the best in Singapore come in to be pitched to. And we also occasionally will run a mentor night where you get to meet guys like Osman and Razi, who are going to be really, really helpful to help you in all kinds of ways. And people, we have a mentor community of about 200 or so folks, where they basically help with all the things that we don't always help with, and they help with go-to-market strategy. They help with, some of them are a lot of them are angel investors, and really great deep business folks that we basically try to introduce to you guys.
All right,
Yeah,
great.
that covers it. Maybe the last thing is the demo day, but maybe I covered that at the beginning, so we're good.
I think
Yeah,
I mean, to ask, yeah.
Sorry, Razi.
I was going to say now's a good time to like ask Yahya about his experience of the program, since he just went through it with cohort 8.
Yeah, enough of tooting my own horn. Yahya, maybe we'd love to hear from you. Like, what do you think of the program, and how has it worked for you?
I think everything, of course, I agree with everything that Alex, really clearly mapped out. So I think the program has been super helpful personally for us. Like our startup, like we see a clear, significant difference between, how we used to approach problems before we joined the program, and then we're just halfway through the program, and the differences are significant. So all the things that Alex mentioned, right? The program is very well spread in attacking problems from all different angles. Like, so there's a weekly stand up, there's a growth jam, there's you could bring problems. So I think just adding on to what Alex said, I think any problem that we want to solve, you can just take it to the network at Accelerating Asia, and we would get help from left, right, and center by connecting with experts from the industry. That's like one click away. Any problem, there's subject matter experts, there's industry experts, there's a lot of data that from the people who have actually been there, done that, solved similar problems in different markets and even similar markets. So yeah, I think the program's super helpful. I think anyone who's looking to actually literally accelerate the growth and actually take things to the next level, I think this is a right program to apply for.
That's good to know. And just in case people are wondering, there's I invested in Pattern and nominated them to try and apply for the program, because I did see that there was going to be real value for the business. And just to put this into context, the co-founders of Pattern are experienced. They've actually worked at Dastagar in Pakistan, so they've gone through that whole hockey stick type of growth in a startup and have taken that experience away. So it's not like, hey, we know everything. They still got value out of it from what I'm hearing from you, Yahya, right? We've got some questions coming through as well. I think Sajid, his question really is around the investment terms and what the startup already has received investment from another accelerator at a specific valuation. How would Accelerating Asia handle that?
Thank you, Saji. So the investment from Accelerating Asia is typically $100,000 at your current valuation. So we'll follow that round if it's ongoing. If you need to negotiate a new round, we'll typically be amenable to finding a valuation that works for you and that we believe that you'll be able to complete your fundraising off of as well. So we're not really here to negotiate like our best round. We're here to negotiate a round that you can build out over the next 3 months and make sure that you close it out with a bunch of great investors on board. And then that is the valuation that we pay $100,000 for. And then additionally, there's program fees. There's 2 program fees. One is a $35,000, I believe it's $35,000 cash program fee. It could, yeah, that's right. And then the second is a 3% program fee, and that's 3% of your valuation. So if you're 10 million, that's 3% of your stock valuation gets written to us in the note as well. And that goes to cover the program, and also 1% of that actually goes back to our LPs. So our LPs get a super good deal because they, in addition to getting the stock that the $100,000 buys, they also get 1% there as well. I should note that this is this part of the deal I'm a little bit less familiar with, but I'm happy to at least give you the overview, and then that at that level I'm pretty familiar.
Yeah, I mean, and in the past, I think there have been people that have come through, and for these types of terms, if you've got an established startup and you've got an established board, you need to run this through a board review, just to make sure that you've got everybody's buy-in on the program and that everyone agrees to it. Otherwise, the selection process is quite rigorous, and it can take some time, and yeah, it can be problematic if you haven't got everybody on board to sign up to those terms. Yeah,
I think since you mentioned selection process, right? because earlier we were speaking about how 700 startups applied for this cohort, and of which, what was it, 8 or was it 10, Alex, that got selected?
10.
10, right? I think a lot of people who are tuning in, they're quite curious to know exactly what goes into the selection process. So maybe if you could shed a little bit of light on that, that could help the viewers and they could possibly prepare themselves better before they come and apply for the program.
Yeah, so for cohort 9, we're doing it slightly differently than last time, but it won't be too different. So I'll kind of tell you how the last couple times have gone, and you can expect like a 10% difference for cohort 9. So basically, you apply online. I will paste the application link into the chat, and then we do a first round filter. So the first round filter, we go through, we check, do you have a website? Is it an interesting business? Is it a real thing? Like from a cursory thing. And then if yes, then you'll most likely get a call like for a few minutes where we just say, like, do you exist? Like, are you reporting GMV where you meant to report revenue? Like, is it a real thing? Like, check. Okay, cool. If you get referred by, like, say, Osman or Razi or Yahya, then we might skip that first round, and you go straight into the kind of second round, which is where you'll have a more detailed call with myself and one of the GPs, either Amra or Craig. In that call, usually it's 20 or 30 minutes. We'll ask you to pitch. You shouldn't pitch for more than 5 minutes. If you start pitching long, you'll get cut off. It won't be super pleasant. So get a 3-minute pitch down. 3 minutes is good. You get your 3-minute pitch down. Like, we understand your pitch. I like it when people show us slides. Some of the other co-founders don't necessarily like it. I like it because you're talking and capturing our attention. But some people have a tendency to get caught reading the slides, and then the pitch goes on and on and on, and then we're going to start interrupting you and telling you to move on. So that's not so good. Yeah, so get through your 3-minute pitch, and then we're going to go to Q&A, and then we'll have about 20 minutes of Q&A, or maybe 17 because you've spent 3 minutes pitching, and then kind of during that time we get to know your business. After that, we'll maybe do a little more diligence that you might not be aware of, and then we'll basically filter down to about 30 or 40. After we get to 30 or 40, then we have a panel of our top experts. That's our LPs, our best mentors, etc. And we kind of organize something called Selection Week. And during Selection Week, one of our amazing program associates, most likely Bettina, who's awesome, will make sure that you get to meet 7 to 10 of these great mentors. And those 7 to 10 meetings will ideally be lined up one after another. We'll take like a morning or an afternoon. It could be spread over the course of a week, but we'll try not to do that too much. And then in that time, these 7 to 10 mentors who might have a note about this company in Pakistan, they might have something that we don't understand, like they might be an expert in this field. We might say, oh, what do you think about this company's XYZ? And they will do the digging. And then after that, we'll be reading their notes, reading their ratings. Is it go, no go? Do they love you? And then we might have a last call after that to just go over those kind of remaining nagging questions that we have. And then basically shortly after that, you'll get a term sheet, or you'll get a letter that says, we really appreciate your time, and please apply again next time. Often the case is that it's a little too early for a lot of the startups, given that you've got guys like the Pattern crushing it with $20,000 in revenue already, and so you do have stiff competition.
Yeah, and I think that's worth noting, right? Because there have been some startups that have come through the selection process maybe 3 times before they've been selected. So even though you get rejected the first time round, it's not the end of an era, so to speak. It's more like try again and give it a bit more of a rethink.
There's this famous, I forgot who said it, but there's this famous thing in VC called lines, not dots. And so a lot of venture capitalists will kind of think of your startup and each meeting that they have with you as like a dot. It's like one data point we have on they're doing okay, we like them, we felt like this. And then if you meet them one time and then you just have like a dot in space, you don't have an X and Y axis. And then you start meeting them a few more times and you start to get like, wow, I met them 3 months ago and since then they've made all this progress. And I met them 4 months later and since then, like actually Yahya applied to one of our, you applied to cohort 5, right? Or 6? I'm sorry.
It was cohort 7.
Okay, yeah, so you applied to cohort 7. I remember your application. I was quite fond of you guys. I was like, we should let them in, but the traction wasn't there yet. And I was like, wow, they're super young. They're super, you know, they're going for it. They've got the right team. It's an interesting market, but it wasn't quite there yet. And then they applied for cohort 8, and it was like, it was there. I remembered Yahya. I remembered the team. I remembered like where they were and where they are now. And I was like, that's a lot of acceleration in a short period of time. So that was just that difference, that delta in the company was quite convincing for me. And by the way, that's the thing that you want to do is when I say it was convincing for me, there's only like 3 or 4 people making this decision. So you want to know who they are. You want one of them to be convinced, or ideally 2 of them, and they do the job of convincing the others. And that's not just us, that's everywhere you go. So with an angel, you just need to convince one person usually, or maybe that person and their spouse, or that person and their dad, or whatever. You convince, you know, those 2 people, and they're good. But in a VC, you want to have one person who's like really advocating for you. And to do that, we're probably not going to have too much time to make like a good a offline connection with you. But to do that, the better you can connect with us, the better it is for you.
I think I'd like to add one thing. Thanks, Alex, for sharing this. This is very, very helpful. And I think from personally, from our experience, I'd like to share that when we didn't make it through when we applied in cohort 7, the application and the interview process was a learning experience in itself. And then, you know, so I think all the feedback that we got when we actually didn't make it through was very, very helpful, which actually, you know, not just made it possible for us to actually get into cohort 8, it also actually fundamentally helped the business a lot as well. So I think those interactions are invaluable on their own. And then, you know, I think applying for the first time, I think the intention should be like, okay, it's a bonus if you get in. I think the intention should be to actually learn through the process and actually get in the next time with even better traction maybe. So I think, yeah, that's very important too. A lot of founders I know, like when you apply for a cohort and you know, for the first time and actually don't make it through, sometimes people just, you know, rule that option out. And then, you know, they're like, okay, so maybe we can't make it. In fact, you know, if you in the mental roadmap in your mind, I think if it's to just get feedback and actually try to, you know, improve the business in a way that it makes sense for, you know, both Accelerating Asia and, you know, your business. So when it's mutually beneficial, I think the partnership is a lot better.
You know, hearing that and a rejection also leads to so many positive outcomes. I think, Alex, you're going to see a lot more applications coming through, more than the 700 that you're getting currently.
I hope so. Crush our KPIs. Yeah, I have one more question for you, actually, if you guys don't mind. So you were talking about you learned a lot from the application process. Did you make any connections during that mentor week or during the selection process that like meant something to you? Was that part of what you're talking about?
Absolutely, yes. Because the mentors and during the selection week, the people who are sort of, you know, asking different questions about the business and, you know, trying to actually point out different challenges from different angles are actually basically help you really, you know, condense and consolidate all the important business parts that actually matter and need improvement, all the levers that actually need improvement. So, you know, getting that, you know, diverse feedback really, you know, helps you put together where to focus. Yeah.
All right. We've got a few other questions coming through. There's one from Aminul. It's a long question, but he's he's talking about how he aligns to multiple SDG goals since launching. You know, and you know, is it the right time for them to apply for this cohort? They're making 3 to 4K of revenue. They've got 8 to 100 daily orders, etc., etc. And they've received government recognition and the like. So that's only since February of 2023. So they've not been running for that long, but they're already generating around 3K of revenue.
Aminul, is that how you say it, Aminul?
Aminul, yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. Congratulations on that traction. It's not easy in Bangladesh to generate $3,000 to $4,000 a month in revenue in, I believe it's 5 months. My math's not too good. 5 or 6 months since starting. So that's phenomenal. Very good traction, especially in a marketplace. Sometimes it's, you know, if you have a B2B business, you pick up one client and then you're there. But if you're doing, you know, 100 daily orders, that's a good sign that you're onto something. So I think that's definitely a good sign that you're onto something. We'd love to work with you, or you know, potentially work with you on growth, on finding the investors to support you through the future. So I, you know, definitely encourage you to apply. But you say you're the first and only cashback and affiliate marketplace in Bangladesh. I would encourage you to do a little bit of research to make sure that's actually the case, because that might be over optimistic.
Yeah, there's another good question as well coming through from let's see, it's from Shawan, and the questions specifically around early stage impact startups and sustainable business model or month-on-month exponential growth. Which takes priority, or is it? It's a tough question.
Yeah. So does month-on-month exponential growth necessarily mean that you're burning millions of dollars in marketing? Well, if it does, then that's not as interesting as a sustainable month-on-month exponential growth. So a lot of the startups in our current cohort are growing 10 to 300% a month in the last 2 months, and so that's all exponential growth. I think the majority of them are between like 10 and 30% a month, month-on-month. Are they burning a little bit of cash on marketing? Most of them less than a few $1,000s. You know, a couple of them are spending more than that, but either they've raised a lot of money or they're in a business where CAC, customer acquisition cost, is like the primary cost, and they're aware of that. So I think sustainable business model is really important, but I think there's a fallacy in your question, and I have to point it out. And the fallacy is that you cannot grow exponentially without dumping money into customer acquisition. And I do believe it's possible. I've seen it happen many, many times, that customer acquisition can grow exponentially without dumping money, and exponential growth can be sustainable. And in fact, if you're not growing 10, 20, 30% a month, which is exponential, but most of you guys are at a small stage, then, you know, maybe something's wrong. Maybe you don't have product market fit. Maybe you need to look for, you know, something where you're growing 20% a month, or you need to, you know, do some tweaks, or most likely you need to go talk to more customers, figure out what it is they need that you're, you know, you're trying to address, but you're missing something still. Because if you've got 10 customers and they're not referring 2 customers every once in a while, you know, you're not growing the way you need to be to get from, you know, small to big this decade. So yeah, I'm sorry if that's a little bit harsh, but that's my answer.
Yeah, it's a complicated question because it's For me, it's always it depends. It's usually my response to those types of questions.
It's a little bit of a loaded question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to unpack it a little bit and unload the question.
Yeah.
If we're not
Great.
growing, is there a reason we're not growing, right? And if it's just because we're not spending, then maybe something's wrong. Maybe we don't actually have those core customers, because we should be able to just hit the phones and call our friends or call customers and at least find 100 customers, hit the forums, hit the product hunts of the world, and at least get those kind of initial customers that are gonna start to generate referral traffic and build SEO traffic, and it's possible.
Yeah.
Maybe before we pick another question from the audience, I had a question from Yahya. Question for Yahya. Yahya applied for cohort 7, wasn't successful. Applied cohort 8, was successful. Is there anything that you wish you had known before you had applied for cohort 7? And the easier way to ask this is, do you have any tips for anyone who's looking to apply?
That's a great question, Razi. I think in hindsight, I think I'll have a different answer. I think maybe no, because I think going through that process was sort of important, and I think it was definitely traction. It was definitely more traction, but I think you never know when the traction is enough or when it isn't, right? So I think that was a good boost when we got this feedback in cohort 7, and okay, we needed to sort of maybe, since we're a marketplace, so we need to sort of grow some users on the supply side, some users on the demand side, and then having a good ballpark from, let's say, everyone on the Accelerating Asia team. So for example, Craig had feedback, Alex had feedback, Amra had feedback, and then that's a good validation, and that's a good motivation as well to sort of go back to the drawing board and plan it out for the next cohort. So yeah, I think everything happened for the good.
Okay, so no tips for anyone. Just dive in, apply, and things will work out if you do things well and you do things right.
I think
a question from Mustafa.
And then I say that because the application form itself is structured so well. Like if you're going through the process, you sort of get that, and then everything else that's remaining, you get that into the feedback. So I'd encourage not, the reason why I say this is because I don't want anybody in the audience to sort of not apply only because they think that the traction is not real. I'd encourage them to actually do apply, and then let the feedback guide them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a good point, because the application form gives you a very clear indication of the types of questions and insights that we're looking at, and I say we because I go through the selection week in the final few stages, but that gives you an idea of all the type of questions that are typically going to be asked, and yeah, you learn a lot from just going through the process of completing the application form. Yeah. One of the questions from Mustafa, hi Mustafa, is really around life after Accelerating Asia. How do we do a check-in? Do we create a cohort? Community? How does that work?
Thank you, Mustafa. That's a great question. So we do have like a quarterly metrics collection where we have an official check-in, but outside of that, we try to keep an active community. So in that case, basically myself and Craig and to some extent Amra, we're always available. And so like today, I have been communicating with the CTO on the one hand and the CEO and COO on the other hand of a startup from cohort 5 that's they're having a little bit of a rocky time, so helping them out. And then we have fundraising from a cohort 6 startup that's asking us for some advice. So we also stay in the loop with startups, and then in addition to that, we have a alumni channel on our Slack, so all the alumni can stay together. And then, is it today? Yeah, today we also have a masterclass on cohort analysis with one of the founders with Arifin from cohort 6, I believe. And so he's a founder. He's been doing cohort analysis, and that's been helping him build his business and figure out exactly which marketing has been working and which customer service tactics have been working. So we're going to bring him in to do an educational session with the cohort. So kind of, you can see from these 3 examples that I've given, we stay in touch, we remain friends, we continue to help out, and we also bring in those founders. They also come into selection week to be mentors. So we try and make a family out of the thing. So at this point, we've got 80 members in the family, and 80 companies in the family, and it keeps growing. And we look forward to post cohort friendships with Yahya and his co-founders as well. And it doesn't just end there.
That's cool. I mean, we've got a few questions coming in, and they're kind of industry specific. And I think one of them is like somebody commenting that we're very light on prop tech within Accelerating Asia, but
we've got 80 investments, and prop tech takes 2. It doesn't seem that bad to me. If you've got a great prop tech company, we're interested. We've seen a bunch of applications for the first and only crypto prop tech startup, whether it's in Vietnam or Thailand or in other markets. There's getting introduced to one in Indonesia today. So yeah, we like them. We're looking forward to seeing one become very successful, and being part of that one. And I think we can smell it when the success is coming. So that's part of the application process, is to be that one. And we'll figure it out.
Yeah, and I think the general comment really is that from my experience, Accelerating Asia is open to looking at all the different industry verticals. Then there's nothing specific around that. It's just really, do you have product market fit? Do you have a great product that customers want? Are you addressing a need and a demand? And being able to address that. The industry vertical is kind of secondary to all of that.
Thank you, Osman. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I think unless you're trying to figure out a new way to exploit children to extract coal, we're good. So it's not. We're really open to different types of businesses. We like exciting businesses, and yeah, prop tech is hot when it's hot and it's good, and the founders are good, and they figured out some of those legal issues. Then we're in.
Yeah, because I could see a question coming in regarding Aquatech, and again, it's the same answer really, in terms of if you've got the product market fit, then yeah, apply. There's nothing holding you back, other than if you don't ask the question, you're never going to get the answer, right? And I think that's pretty much what we're encouraging people to do if they've got that.
Absolutely, yeah. We welcome the application. In all kinds of, if you're solving waste problems, we love that. I have seen a shrimp farming startup that was, instead of solving waste problems, they were creating waste problems, and they're like, oh, we can create waste problems across huge areas of coastline and decimate them. I think for me that was a little bit of a problem, but if we can help solve those waste problems, then we're really happy.
Yeah. Just a general question, because you see lots of accelerator programs cropping up now, and places like Dubai, Saudi Arabia. They're becoming quite hot in the startup ecosystem. How does Accelerating Asia differentiate itself from some of those programs that are already out there or emerging?
It's a tough question. I tend to think often that if you've got a good product and you go to market well, you don't have to worry about your competitors too hard. So I'm not too worried about too many other accelerators. In fact, I like to introduce founders to my friends at SOSV or 500 Startups, because those, I'm familiar with those guys and ladies, and I know that they're going to do a good job helping them raise that next round. We do focus on the Asia region, so we've invested as far east as Korea and as far west as India and Bangladesh, with about 20% of our portfolio in Bangladesh, and a few new startups in India, and then about 15% in Indonesia now, and China, and Vietnam, Thailand. So we kind of focus on this, Singapore, on this region. But that said, we've just recently made our first investment in the UAE in Dubai, and we're going to continue to be opportunistic about the startups that we invest in. And when there's a great company coming from a new geography, then time zone permitting, we're going to want to make that investment, I think. I would say, talk to the other accelerators as well. Like, do you have a good connection with those people? Do you really like them? Then apply and find the best one for you as a startup. As an investor, diversify into multiple accelerators, but primarily into Accelerating Asia, because we're the best. And that's what I would say on that side. But actually, I think you can look at the portfolio and see the successes that are coming out of it, and those regions are good as well. But they do have more of a well, I think many emerging markets have a reputation for unfounder-friendly investors. So, and those are typically, you'll find out in the terms, or when you meet someone and they want to take more of a controlling interest in your company. So I think that's something to watch out for. I don't know too many of those competitors, so I can't really speak to whether that's the case, but I would just say that that's something to watch out for across the region.
Yeah. There's a good question from Davin. What kind of founder starts really thrive in the program and which ones don't? I think that's a loaded question.
I think it's a good question. I think guys like Yahya really have been thriving. Those are people who are, we try not to ask for overcommitment. Yahya, we're asking for 4 or 5 hours a week. Is it too much? Maybe I should. Yeah, it seems to be reasonable. Yahya is showing up all the time, and I think he's getting value from everything. And if he's not, we want to know about it. We have feedback forms. So the founders who are active, who are really on top of their companies and making shit happen, those are the kinds that thrive. We have had the occasional founder. It's rare because they usually don't get past the filter, but they have had the occasional startup where the founders are not really, that stoked about building their business, and they're focused on other things. They're not looking to do their fundraising now. They just wanted to use Accelerating Asia for PR. They expect to be all over our website and to be at all of our events, and for that to be a PR and get them customers. We do introduce customers on occasion, but it's not really our primary focus. Our primary focus is adding fuel to your fire by giving you the resources, the knowledge, the connections to build a better startup. So if you're just coming to us because you think we're going to bring you customers or something, unfortunately, we might give you the knowledge to go get it, but you've got to go get it yourself.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I just want to add one thing. Thank you, Alex, for sharing this. I think I just add one thing to what Alex said. That I think for Davin's question about what kind of founders slash startups thrive in Accelerating Asia program, I think people who are actually willing to sort of hold their existing hypotheses loosely and actually, change or be flexible around, solving the problem, because there's a lot of, you have to be good at taking feedback, and you have to be sort of willing to get out of your comfort zone as well. A lot of times in early stages, when when something is working, and then a lot of the industry experts, maybe like some of the mentors at Accelerating Asia, think that it's not going to work out at scale. At scale, you're going to have to sort of fix something fundamental in order to scale. And then, at that point in time, you need to sort of be open about it and sort of be willing to learn. I think that's one element that I'd highlight.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think it's a really good point. At the beginning of one of our cohorts, I remember there was a recent cohort, we had a founder who, I think several people commented about the colors in his deck, and he got like a little bit of a temper tantrum. And we were all like, what's up with this guy? And so actually I took some time with him, and I was like, hey, dude, we're here for you. We want to help you. That's why we give you the feedback. If you don't want it, we can make our sessions, we can exclude you. You don't have to come, basically. And if you don't come, probably the rest isn't going to fall into place. But I think after that, that team's participation, I mean, I don't want to credit myself. That guy, he thought about it. And he said, yeah, you know what? I'm here to get feedback. I'm here to grow. And I'm here to learn. And I think that the whole participation from that startup turned around, and we've seen them raise $600,000-700,000 now from investors, where previously their traction might not have been so great with investors, because maybe investors were getting that vibe that this guy is not coachable, that this guy's not here to, that this guy's arrogant. And we don't try to bring arrogance. It may seem that way if we're giving you a lot of suggestions that we're arrogant, but often all of us that I know, if you can give us evidence why, we might be wrong, we're totally willing to turn around and say well, wow, so that belief was wrong. I learned something today. That was fantastic. Thank you. And if, that's kind of what we hope to see from founders as well.
Yeah. Well, we're coming up to the top of the hour. I think, Razi, do you want to just field one of the last questions?
Sure. So we have a question from Jan. I think, so Jan is asking, can we apply even if you're not yet a registered company, but we already have a good amount of traction? And he also mentions that they already have an angel investor, and is there going to be a conflict with the accelerator?
Yeah, so I actually answered in the chat that, yeah, it's okay to apply like that. I think, very shortly after the application closes, you're going to need to structure up. In fact, I think it's probably a pretty bad idea to be doing what you're doing. And you should structure up very quickly. You should get your, because I'm sure you've got to, if you haven't even created an entity yet, you probably have some misunderstandings with people about how much equity they might own, or what could happen if your company dies, and who's going to be liable for that. And so you want to clear up all of that stuff and get it in writing. Ideally, in a contract. Once you get into Accelerating Asia, part of our our process to get you the money is to make sure that you do what we call the CPs, the conditions precedent, which means to have your company structure in place, to have your IP assignments in place, which means that your company owns your source code, for example, and not the person who wrote it. And to have your founder vesting agreements in place, which means that if one of your co-founders leaves before 3 years, they don't necessarily get all of their, all of the 33 or 50% or whatever they think that they're entitled to. These are like, the reason that we ask for this one is you're not going to be able to raise from the VCs that we introduce you to if you don't have this stuff in place. So that you get this stuff in place, and then Sequoia wants to write you a check, and they say, let me see, and you say, here it is, and they say, okay, here's your check, as opposed to you say, wait a sec, it's got to take me 2 months to restructure this and get that guy to sign, and that angel investor believes that he owns 20%, but I think he owns 10%, and he only wired half the money, and what do? Like, we need to get all that stuff cleared up. So go ahead, apply, but get that stuff cleared up.
No, absolutely, and it's a good point, and it isn't just the big VCs. I think other angels, if you will refuse to invest if you don't have any business structure in place. So yeah, there's no harm in applying, but I think most active angel investors, if they can't see a business structure that's formulated, then they're going to decline to invest and give you any checks for investment.
Yeah, I think that's really important. You should get that structure in place. I mean, it doesn't take that long. You just go apply,
yeah.
Right? And you can use something like Stripe Atlas. In Singapore, there's Aspire and other services that set your business up in a matter of days to weeks. In Bangladesh, we've even had an application from a company that does this in like 3 to 5. I think it was 3 weeks. They can get your whole like structure set up. So get that set up. Get your equity agreements set up. Get your IP stuff set up. We have all the templates for that stuff. If you want, you can ping me offline, and I'll send you some of those templates if you need to get that stuff set up too.
All right. I think we're going to have to try and wrap it up. We are on the hour, and yeah, there are questions still coming through. Unfortunately, I think we're not going to be able to get them all answered. But by all means, just drop us a note, either in the chat on LinkedIn or through email. The connections are there. You've got the apply now link as well from Alex. By all means, do that and reach out to all of us, and we're more than happy to take those questions on board and try and answer them for you.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for having me. Really appreciate your time, and really appreciate everybody's time for listening.
It's been really informative, actually, and I think we should do this again. I've enjoyed it.
No.
All right, let's do it. Okay, thanks everybody. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Yahya. And Razi, do you want to quickly wrap up?
Yeah, before we end, right? So if you want to, thank you all for tuning in. Please be sure to connect with Alex, Yahya, Osman, and myself on LinkedIn. And Alex and the team at Accelerating Asia really put out excellent content on the YouTube channel. So be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Be sure to follow Accelerating Asia on LinkedIn. And of course, be sure to subscribe to the Clueless Capitalist as well. And we'll see you for a future Ask Me Anything session. Thank you.
You.